The Liberty half dollar holds a special place in American history, not just as a coin, but as a symbol of a changing nation. When we talk about the Liberty half dollar from the early 1970s, especially the years 1971, 1972, 1973, and 1974, we are talking about a period when the United States was going through political tension, economic pressure, cultural shifts, and emotional memories tied to President John F. Kennedy. Although officially known as a Kennedy half dollar, many collectors and people still refer to it as a Liberty coin because of what it represents: freedom, national pride, and the enduring spirit of America. These coins were minted just a few years after the country moved away from silver coinage, making them historically important even though they were made primarily of copper and nickel. The story of the Liberty half dollar truly begins with the legacy of President John F. Kennedy, whose assassination in 1963 deeply shocked the nation. As a tribute, the U.S. Mint quickly introduced the Kennedy half dollar in 1964, replacing the Franklin half dollar. Early versions were struck in high silver content, and Americans saved them as keepsakes. By the time the 1970s arrived, silver was removed entirely from circulating half dollars, and the coins minted from 1971 onward were made of a copper-nickel clad composition. This change reflected economic realities, rising metal prices, and a new era in U.S. coinage. The 1971 Liberty half dollar was especially significant because it marked the first year the Kennedy half dollar was struck without any silver for general circulation. This was a major transition, and many Americans noticed the difference immediately. The coin had a copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel, giving it a lighter color and feel compared to earlier silver issues. Despite the removal of silver, the design remained the same, featuring a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy on the obverse and the presidential seal on the reverse. The year 1971 was also important in U.S. history due to inflation concerns and changes in the global monetary system, which made this coin a quiet witness to economic transformation. Collectors today pay close attention to the 1971 Liberty half dollar, especially coins minted in Philadelphia and Denver, marked by the absence of mint mark or the presence of a D. While most circulated examples are common, high-grade uncirculated coins and proof versions can carry higher value. Proof coins were produced at the San Francisco Mint and were specially made for collectors with mirror-like finishes and sharp details. Errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets can significantly increase the value of a 1971 half dollar, making it a fascinating year for collectors. Moving forward to 1972, the Liberty half dollar continued to reflect the ongoing production of the Kennedy design in a copper-nickel format. The United States in 1972 was experiencing political tension. The Vietnam War was still ongoing, and trust in government institutions was being tested. These historical undercurrents give the 1972 half dollar a deeper meaning beyond its face value. Millions of these coins were minted, especially in Denver, making them readily available in circulation at the time. However, many people did not use half dollars frequently in daily transactions, which led to large numbers being saved or stored away. The 1972 Liberty half dollar is especially well known among collectors for certain era varieties. One of the most famous is the 1972 double die obverse, where noticeable doubling appears in the lettering and details of Kennedy's portrait. These era coins can be worth significantly more than standard examples, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition. Proof versions from San Francisco remain popular as well, prized for their clarity and strong strike. The year 1972 represents a balance between mass production and collectible potential. As we enter 1973, the Liberty half dollar becomes even more interesting due to a unique circumstance in U.S. coin history. In 1973, no half dollars were officially released for general circulation. Instead, they were only produced for collectors in mint sets and proof sets. This means that finding a genuine 1973 half dollar in circulation is extremely rare, and most examples exist in uncirculated condition. This fact alone makes the 1973 Liberty half dollar a key date for collectors who want to complete a full set of Kennedy half dollars. The 1973 half dollar was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but all were intended for collectors. Because they were not heavily circulated, These coins often display excellent detail and minimal wear. The design remained unchanged, maintaining the strong image of Kennedy and the presidential seal. Collectors value the 1973 half dollar, not just for its rarity in circulation, but also for what it represents, a moment when half dollars were quietly removed from everyday American life. In 1974, the Liberty half dollar returned to limited circulation, though it still did not see widespread everyday use. By this time, inflation was rising, and Americans were using smaller denominations more frequently. The half dollar became more of a novelty coin, often saved rather than spent. The 1974 half dollar continued with the copper-nickel clad composition and standard design. Philadelphia and Denver produced large numbers, while San Francisco focused on proof coins for collectors. The 1974 Liberty half dollar is notable for its quality variations. Some coins show weak strikes, while others are sharply detailed, especially proof versions. Collectors also search for error coins from this year, including double dies and misaligned strikes. While most 1974 half dollars are affordable, exceptional examples in high grades can still command respectable prices in the collector market. This year represents the final chapter of the early 1970s half dollar era, closing out a period of transition and adjustment. When we look at the Liberty half dollars from 1971 to 1974 as a group, we see more than just coins. We see a reflection of America's economic, political, and cultural journey. These coins were minted during a time of uncertainty, yet they carried forward a design rooted in hope and remembrance. They remind us of President Kennedy's legacy and the nation's response to change. Even without silver, these coins hold value through their history, their stories, and their place in American numismatics. Today, collectors around the world search for high-quality examples of these half dollars, building sets that preserve a unique chapter in U.S. coinage. Whether found in old mint sets, inherited collections, or forgotten bankrolls, Liberty half dollars from 1971, 1972, 1973, and 1974 continue to inspire curiosity and respect. They may not always be rare, but they are undeniably meaningful. Each coin tells a story of a nation moving forward while honoring its past, making the Liberty half dollar a true symbol of American history. Step 1, the 1971 Liberty half dollar of the United States of America represents a powerful turning point in American coin history, culture, and emotion, because this was not just another half dollar released by the U.S. Mint, but a coin that quietly marked the end of America's long relationship with silver circulating coinage and the beginning of a new modern era. And although officially known as the Kennedy half dollar, many collectors and history lovers still refer to it as a Liberty half dollar due to the strong symbolism of liberty carried on the obverse through President John F. Kennedy's portrait and the ideals he represented. And to truly understand the importance of the 1971 half dollar, we must go back to the early 1960s when the tragic assassination of President Kennedy shocked the entire world and led the United States Mint to honor him in a way few presidents had ever been honored before, place his image on a circulating coin just months after his death. And by 1964, the Kennedy half dollar was born, struck in 90% silver, becoming an instant keepsake that Americans hoarded rather than spent, which eventually created shortages and forced the government to rethink its coinage metals, leading to reduced silver content in 1965, and finally to the complete removal of silver from half dollars in 1971, making the 1971 issue historically important as the first copper-nickel-clad Kennedy half dollar ever released for circulation, a fact that alone makes it a key date for collectors who want to own the beginning of a new chapter in U.S. coinage history. And when you hold a 1971 half dollar in your hand, you're literally holding the moment when silver disappeared from America's everyday money, replaced by a layered structure of copper at the core with outer layers of nickel, a decision driven by rising silver prices and economic pressure rather than public preference. And despite public resistance, the transition was inevitable, and the 1971 half dollar reflects this shift perfectly, as it retained the same powerful design while changing completely in composition, with the obverse still featuring the left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, showing a calm yet determined expression that many believe symbolizes hope, strength, and democratic ideals, while the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, displays a heraldic eagle holding an olive branch and arrows beneath a shield, surrounded by stars representing the states of the Union, a design that echoes freedom, defense, unity, and liberty, themes deeply woven into American identity. And even though the word liberty appears boldly across the obverse, the 1971 half dollar carries an even deeper liberty message when viewed through its historical context, as America in the early 1970s was facing social change, economic uncertainty, the Vietnam War, and a shifting global role, making this coin a silent witness to one of the most transformative periods in U.S. history. And from a minting perspective, the 1971 Kennedy half dollar was produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, which struck coins without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, identified by a D mint mark, with hundreds of millions produced, meaning the coin is not rare in circulated condition. Yet rarity is not always defined by numbers alone, because historical importance, transitional status, and collective demand all play major roles in a coin's value and desirability. And for many collectors, the 1971 half dollar is the first coin in a modern-clad half-dollar collection, serving as a foundation piece that connects the silver era to the modern age. And while most circulated examples are worth only face value or slightly above, uncirculated examples, especially those with strong luster, sharp details, and minimal marks, can command higher premiums, particularly when graded by professional grading services. And special attention is often given to coins with full strike details in Kennedy's hair and the eagle's feathers, as weak strikes are common due to high-speed mass production. And beyond standard circulation coins, collectors also seek out error coins from 1971, including off-center strikes, double dies, clip planchets, and other minting anomalies that can significantly increase value, making the 1971 half dollar an exciting target for error hunters and roll searchers. And culturally, the Kennedy half dollar has always occupied a unique place in American society, often saved as a keepsake, gifted to children, or stored away in drawers and jars, which is why many people today discover 1971 half dollars among family collections and wonder about their story and worth. And what makes this coin especially fascinating is that despite being common, it remains underappreciated, overshadowed by earlier silver issues, yet quietly rich in symbolism because it represents resilience, adaptation, and continuity, showing how America preserved its identity even as its money changed. And when we talk about liberty in relation to the 1971 half dollar, we are not just talking about a word stamped on metal, but about the broader idea of liberty evolving with time, adapting to economic realities while maintaining its core principles. And this coin reminds us that history does not always end with dramatic moments. Sometimes it continues quietly through everyday objects, and the 1971 Liberty half dollar is exactly that, an everyday coin that carries extraordinary meaning, bridging the past and future of U.S. coinage. And for YouTube viewers, collectors, and history lovers alike, understanding this coin is about more than price or rarity. It is about recognizing how a simple 50-cent piece can tell a story of national mourning, economic transition, artistic continuity, and the enduring spirit of liberty that defines the United States of America, making the 1971 Liberty half dollar not just a coin, but a lasting symbol of change, memory, and identity. Step 2, the 1972 Liberty half dollar, represents a fascinating moment in United States coin history, a time when American currency was undergoing major changes in design, metal composition, public perception, and collecting culture. And to truly understand this coin, we must first step back and explore the long journey of the Liberty half dollar itself, a journey that began long before 1972 and carried with it the ideals, struggles, and evolving identity of a nation. The Liberty design, which symbolized freedom, democracy, and American values, had been a cornerstone of U.S. coinage for generations, appearing in different artistic interpretations that reflected the spirit of their eras. By the time the 1972 half dollar was minted, the United States had already transitioned away from many traditional silver coins, a change driven by rising silver prices, economic pressures, and a practical need to keep coins in circulation rather than having them hoarded or melted for their metal value. The early Liberty half dollars were struck in high-purity silver and were seen not just as money, but as works of art, proudly displaying Lady Liberty as a symbol of hope and national pride. But as decades passed, the realities of modern economics forced the U.S. Mint to rethink how coins were made. In 1965, silver was officially removed from circulating half dollars, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition, and by 1972, this change was fully established, making the Liberty half dollar that year a product of both tradition and modernization. Although many people casually refer to the 1972 half dollar as a Liberty half dollar, it is closely associated with the broader legacy of Liberty-themed coinage that Americans had grown up with, and for collectors, it represents a bridge between the old silver era and the modern clad era. The 1972 half dollar was minted during a period of social change in the United States, marked by the Vietnam War, civil rights movements, and shifting cultural values. And coins from this era quietly witnessed these historic moments as they passed through countless hands, wallets, and cash registers. The U.S. Mint produced millions of half dollars in 1972, primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, ensuring that the coin was widely available for everyday transactions, though public use of half dollars was already declining as people preferred smaller denominations like quarters and dollar bills. Despite their reduced use in daily commerce, half dollars continue to be minted as legal tender and also gained attention from collectors who appreciated their size, design, and historical significance. The design elements associated with Liberty-inspired half dollars emphasized strength, freedom, and continuity, values that resonated deeply with Americans even during uncertain times, and the craftsmanship of the 1972 issue reflected the mint's efforts to balance mass production with aesthetic quality. While the coin did not contain silver, its copper-nickel composition was durable and practical, designed to withstand years of circulation without excessive wear. And this durability means that many 1972 half dollars survive today in relatively good condition. However, condition plays a crucial role in determining a coin's value, as circulated examples are typically worth only face value, while uncirculated and mint state coins can command higher prices, especially when they display strong strikes, clean surfaces, and original luster. Collectors pay close attention to mint marks, strike quality, and any unusual features when evaluating a 1972 half dollar. And over the years, certain errors and varieties have attracted particular interest, including double dies, off-center strikes, and other minting anomalies that occurred during the high-speed production process of the era. These error coins can significantly increase the value of an otherwise common piece, making the search for rare varieties an exciting pursuit for numismatists. The 1972 Liberty half dollar also holds sentimental value for many collectors who grew up during the 1970s, as it represents a tangible connection to their childhood and the economic realities of the time. Half dollars were often given as gifts, saved in jars, or tucked away in drawers, sometimes forgotten for decades before being rediscovered and examined with renewed curiosity. From a historical perspective, the coin reflects the U.S. Mint's response to changing economic conditions, demonstrating how tradition can be preserved even as materials and production methods evolve. While earlier Liberty half dollars were celebrated for their silver content, the 1972 issue reminds us that a coin's value is not solely determined by metal, but also by history, design, and cultural significance. In today's coin market, interest in clad-era coins has grown steadily, as collectors seek to complete date sets, explore era varieties, and appreciate the craftsmanship of modern minting techniques. The 1972 half dollar is often included in collections that focus on transitional coins, highlighting the shift from precious metal currency to practical alloy coinage. For beginners, this coin serves as an accessible entry point into numismatics, as it is affordable, widely available, and rich in historical context. Advanced collectors, on the other hand, may pursue high-grade examples or rare errors, recognizing that even common coins can become valuable under the right conditions. Preservation is another important aspect of collecting the 1972 Liberty half dollar, as proper storage in protective holders or albums can prevent damage and maintain the coin's original appearance over time. Environmental factors such as humidity, air exposure, and handling can all affect a coin's condition, so collectors are encouraged to handle their coins carefully and store them responsibly. As we reflect on the legacy of the 1972 Liberty half dollar, it becomes clear that this coin is more than just a piece of currency. It is a snapshot of American history, capturing a moment when tradition met change and when the ideals symbolized by liberty continued to endure despite economic and social transformation. Whether found in a pocket, inherited from a family member, or purchased from a coin dealer, The 1972 half dollar invites us to explore the stories behind everyday objects and to appreciate the artistry and history embedded in the coins we often take for granted. In the world of coin collecting, every coin has a story, and the 1972 Liberty half dollar tells a story of resilience, adaptation, and continuity, reminding us that even in times of change, the symbols that define a nation can remain strong and meaningful for generations to come. Step 3, the Liberty half dollar of 1973 represents a fascinating chapter in the long and proud history of United States coinage, a period when America was undergoing economic, cultural, and political transformation. Although by 1973, the traditional Liberty, designs were largely replaced by modern imagery, the spirit of Liberty still lived strongly in the half-dollar denomination, especially through its connection to earlier Walking Liberty designs and the evolving Kennedy half-dollar series. The half-dollar has always held a special place in American commerce and symbolism, representing not just monetary value, but also national ideals such as freedom, resilience, and unity. By the early 1970s, the United States was moving away from silver coinage, responding to rising metal prices and inflation pressures that followed the end of the Bretton Woods system and the removal of the U.S. dollar from the gold standard. The 1973 Liberty half-dollar era reflects this shift clearly, as coins were now produced in copper-nickel-clad compositions rather than precious metals, marking a new age in American money. The year 1973 itself was significant in U.S. history, defined by the aftermath of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, the oil crisis, and economic uncertainty, all of which subtly influenced public trust in money and institutions. The half-dollar of this period was no longer commonly used in everyday transactions, slowly becoming more of a collector's item rather than a circulating coin seen daily in pockets and cash registers. Despite this decline in circulation, the 1973 half-dollar remains an important artifact for collectors because it represents the transitional identity of American coinage, modern in material, yet deeply rooted in classical symbolism. The design continued to honor liberty through its artistic heritage, reminding Americans of the nation's founding principles even as society moved rapidly toward a more modern and complex future. The obverse design, inspired by earlier liberty imagery, symbolizes freedom and hope, ideals that were especially meaningful during a decade marked by social unrest and change. The reverse of the coin, typically featuring the heraldic eagle, reinforces the power and continuity of the United States as a sovereign nation, holding on to its identity despite internal challenges. The minting process of the 1973 half-dollar reflected advanced industrial techniques of the time, with higher production efficiency, but sometimes lower striking quality compared to earlier silver issues, which is why high-grade specimens today are especially prized by numismatists. Collectors often seek out uncirculated or proof versions of the 1973 half-dollar, as these coins preserve the sharp details and original luster that are often lost in circulation. Proof coins from this year, struck primarily at the San Francisco Mint, were produced specifically for collectors and feature mirror-like fields and frosted design elements, making them visually stunning examples of modern U.S. coin craftsmanship. Mint marks play a crucial role in determining the value and rarity of these coins, with Philadelphia and Denver producing circulation strikes while San Francisco focused on proofs. Although the 1973 half-dollar is not considered extremely rare, its value increases significantly in higher grades, particularly when professionally graded by respected services. The historical context surrounding the coin adds to its appeal, as it serves as a tangible reminder of America's economic evolution and the gradual disappearance of silver from everyday money. For many collectors, owning a 1973 Liberty half-dollar is about more than monetary worth. It is about preserving a piece of history from a time when the nation was redefining itself. The coin also appeals to younger collectors because it represents an accessible entry point into U.S. numismatics, offering historical significance without the high costs associated with older silver coins. Over the decades, the half-dollar has developed a reputation as a forgotten denomination, yet this very status makes it intriguing, as it tells the story of changing consumer habits and the rise of paper money and electronic transactions. The Liberty theme connects generations, linking early American ideals with modern realities, and the 1973 issue stands quietly as a bridge between those eras. Many collectors enjoy researching the economic conditions of the early 1970s to better understand why coins like the half dollar slowly vanished from circulation. Inflation, rising production costs, and public hoarding of silver coins all contributed to this shift, leaving clad coins like the 1973 half dollar as symbols of adaptation rather than decline. From an artistic perspective, the coin maintains a dignified and balanced design, proving that even non-precious metal coins can carry deep symbolic meaning. The weight, diameter, and reeded edge of the half dollar continue traditional standards, reinforcing continuity in American coin designed despite material changes. Over time, collectors have begun to reevaluate coins in the 1970s, recognizing their importance as historical markers rather than dismissing them as modern and common. The 1973 Liberty half dollar is increasingly appreciated for what it represents, a nation in transition, holding on to its ideals while adapting to a rapidly changing world. For YouTube viewers and coin enthusiasts alike, this coin offers a compelling story that blends history, economics, artistry, and national identity into a single object small enough to fit in the palm of a hand. Studying this coin encourages a deeper appreciation for how money reflects society, politics, and values at any given moment in time. As the years pass, coins like the 1973 half dollar become more than currency. They become storytellers, carrying the silent narratives of the era in which they were born. In the end, the Liberty half dollar in 1973 stands as a modest yet meaningful chapter in American numismatic history, reminding us that even in times of uncertainty, the ideals of liberty and unity continue to endure through the everyday objects we often take for granted. Last step, the 1974 Liberty half dollar, the United States of America, represents a fascinating period in American coin history, a time when the nation was adjusting to major economic changes, cultural shifts, and the end of traditional silver coinage. Although the word liberty is often associated with older designs, the 1974 half dollar continues the strong American symbolism of freedom through the image of President John F. Kennedy, whose portrait had become a modern symbol of liberty, hope, and national unity. By 1974, more than a decade had passed since Kennedy's assassination, yet his image on a half dollar still carried deep emotional and historical meaning for Americans across the country. The half dollar denomination itself has a long and rich history in the United States, dating back to the late 18th century. For generations, the half dollar was widely used in everyday commerce, representing a substantial amount of money in earlier times. However, by the 1970s, including 1974, the half dollar was slowly disappearing from daily circulation. Inflation, changing spending habits, and the rise of paper currency meant that fewer people carried or used half dollars, making coins like the 1974 Liberty half dollar more interesting to collectors today. The design of the 1974 half dollar remained consistent with the Kennedy half dollar series introduced in 1964. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of President John F. Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts. Kennedy's calm yet determined expression reflects ideals of leadership, freedom, and progress, which align closely with the traditional concept of liberty in American coinage. The word liberty arcs prominently above his head, reinforcing a theme that defines much of U.S. coin history. The date 1974 appears clearly below the portrait, marking the coin's place in a decade full of economic challenges and political change. On the reverse side, the 1974 Liberty half dollar displays the presidential seal, designed by Frank Gasparo. The eagle, with outstretched wings, clutches an olive branch and arrows, symbolizing America's desire for peace alongside its readiness to defend freedom. The shield on the eagle's chest represents strength and unity, while the stars above the eagle symbolize the states of a nation. The inscriptions United States of America and half dollar frame the design, emphasizing the coin's national identity and denomination. One of the most important aspects of the 1974 Liberty half dollar is its composition. Unlike earlier half dollars minted in 1964, which were made of 90% silver, and those from 1965 to 1970, which contained 40% silver, the 1974 half dollar contains no silver at all. It is composed of a copper-nickel clad structure with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper and nickel. This change reflects a critical moment in U.S. monetary history when rising silver prices forced the government to remove precious metals from circulating coinage. The elimination of silver from the half dollar significantly affected public perception. Many Americans had already begun saving older silver coins, believing they were more valuable than their face value. By 1974, silver half dollars were no longer being produced for circulation, and people increasingly viewed half dollars as collectible items rather than everyday money. This shift played a major role in why the 1974 Liberty half dollar is often found in better condition compared to coins that circulated heavily in earlier decades. The 1974 half dollar was minted at two primary locations, Philadelphia and Denver. Coins minted in Philadelphia carry no mint mark, while those minted in Denver bear a D mint mark on the obverse, just below Kennedy's neck. Both mints produced large quantities of half dollars in 1974, with mintages reaching into the hundreds of millions. Despite these high numbers, high-grade examples with strong strikes and clean surfaces are still desirable to collectors today. In addition to circulation strikes, 1974 also saw the production of special collector coins. The San Francisco Mint produced proof versions of the 1974 half dollar, identifiable by their sharp details, mirror-like fields, and frosted design elements. These proof coins were never intended for circulation and were sold directly to collectors as part of proof sets. Proof 1974 Liberty half dollars are especially popular among collectors who appreciate high-quality craftsmanship and pristine condition. The economic backdrop of 1974 adds another layer of historical importance to this coin. The United States was dealing with inflation, rising oil prices, and economic uncertainty following the end of the gold standard just a few years earlier. Coins like the 1974 half dollar circulated during a time when Americans were becoming more aware of the changing value of money. This makes the coin not just a piece of metal, but a physical reminder of a challenging economic era. From a collector's perspective, the value of a 1974 Liberty half dollar depends heavily on its condition. Coins that show heavy wear, scratches, or discoloration typically trade close to their face value. However, uncirculated examples, especially those graded by professional grading services, can command higher prices. Coins with full luster, strong strikes, and minimal contact marks are particularly sought after by collectors building high-quality Kennedy half-dollar sets. Error coins from 1974 are another area of interest. Some 1974 half dollars were struck with errors, such as off-center strikes, double dies, or clipped planchets. These errors can significantly increase a coin's value, sometimes by hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on rarity and condition. Error collectors often search through rolls of half dollars, hoping to discover unusual and valuable examples. Although the 1974 Liberty half dollar is not considered rare in general terms, its significance lies in its historical context, design symbolism, and place within the broader Kennedy half-dollar series. It represents a mature phase of the series, long after the emotional impact of Kennedy's death, but still closely tied to his legacy. For many collectors, owning a 1974 half dollar is about preserving a tangible connection to American history rather than seeking extreme rarity. Today, the 1974 Liberty half dollar remains an accessible and educational coin for both beginner and advanced collectors. It is often recommended as a starting point for new collectors because it is affordable, widely available, and rich in historical meaning. At the same time, advanced collectors appreciate the challenge of finding top-grade examples or rare errors from this year. In conclusion, the 1974 Liberty half dollar of the United States of America is much more than a common coin. It tells the story of a nation adapting to economic change, honoring a fallen president, and redefining its monetary system. Whether found in circulation, purchased from a dealer, or preserved in collection, this coin stands as a lasting symbol of American liberty, resilience, and history. Through its design, composition, and legacy, the 1974 half dollar continues to capture the interest of collectors and history enthusiasts alike, making it an enduring piece of America's numismatic story.